love the work that you do because you may get no other reward. And if you don't need any other reward except the satisfaction of the music, then you're always winning. And that was true for me when I was 30. I was out playing music. I thought I was successful when I was 30. I had an audience. I had an ensemble. I was going from city to city playing music. I couldn't make a living, but that was not the issue for me. It seemed to me, people said, well, you were successful. I said, well, I always thought I was. They said, no, when did you make money? Oh, much later.
I think there was once a time when we thought that there was such a thing as an avant-garde. Mm-hmm. And those of us who actually dared believe in that rather quaint notion understood that the majority of the world did not share our values. So now you live in a generation where we expect that the great stages, the world that Western Europeans stomped out for themselves, is supposed to be other than what it's always been. Many of us believe that, hey, if you're really hip, if you're really down, you're going to be in a small community that not everyone will dig, not everyone will understand.
The best way to make there not be that much of a distinction, even if you feel like there might be a teeny one, is to just put your fingers in your ears and say la 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 la. Like I'm so uninterested in like, I mean it's essentially like saying to be from somewhere. Like I feel like I'm like very proudly from the classical tradition. It's like being from Nebraska. Like it does, like you are from there if you're from there. Like there's no changing it. It doesn't mean that you can't have a productive life somewhere else, and it doesn't mean that you can't. You know what I mean? Like the notion of your genre being something that you have to actively perform, I think is pretty vile.
And I find that when you really start to look around, that you don't see any distinctions anymore. And it isn't that it's all one big blur. What it is that all of these techniques, all of these languages, all of these alphabets, all of these worlds of sound, all of these tendencies and directions are available to everybody now. And this is the new common practice.
Well, there's also been a certain ambivalence always in America. You know, on the one hand, are we paying obeisance to this form as a prestigious import from the old country, or is it something that that belongs to us because the formality of it and the means of it are really not indigenous, if you will. I mean, the analogy I always use is that when Princess Elizabeth is to be crowned Queen Elizabeth II, the Crown commissions Benjamin Britten to compose an opera called Gloriana. When William Jefferson Clinton is inaugurated for the second time, he reunites Fleetwood Mac.
I have a terrible fear that ultimately all musical moves will be gobbled up by the voracious maw of backbeat. That will be all that will be left of all music. Everything will be, which would be a very sad thing to happen.
I don't even know what hip-hop is, to be honest with you. I don't. Do you understand hip-hop? But what is all this scratching of records?
First the sample.
Astounding audiences with...
And now the baby scratch.
When I've collaborated with certain hip-hop people, it's not so much that I'm a jazz musician and they're hip-hop. It's more like we were the same generation and our artistic aims were very similar, even though we were coming from slightly different genres, because we were like both kind of modern, urban, New York-based artists. And we were actually going after the same things in our music.
What we do is not experimental music in the sense of a lot of people's work where we did the experiment, these are the results, and those are the results. You know, we want to make something that's listenable music.
And to us, that's pop music.
Yeah, if you take a child from the city and show it a horse, that's an experimental moment. But the child doesn't go, let me think about the entire history of evolution and how horses came to be. No, what they do is like, oh my God, that's so huge and frightening, and I want to get closer to it. So for me, and what I'm interested in, I want to create music and art that is totally huge and frightening, but also so delicious and wonderful that makes you want to be part of it. And you know, I take my compositions utterly seriously, but I'm composing music with stuff like this. Like, it's absolutely funny and it's absolutely serious at the same time.
I just do the work that I think is good, and if people relate to it, that's wonderful, because every performer wants an audience. You know, I mean, without an audience, I would be in that chamber of isolation of doing this just alone all the time.
I think I do music because I'm trying to understand. And that's why the ear tones that I played for you that are referred to as autoacoustic emissions, I heard those very early when I was beginning to work. And so I wanted to really create a kind of music to where the listener actually had vivid experiences of contributing this other sonic dimension to the music that his ears were making.
The answer is, at a certain point, if you're not talking to people and they know you're not talking to them, they go away. They don't want to hear it. Instead of making the new an adventure in which they are permitted to dislike something. See, the biggest problem is we've taken away their rights. When they dislike something, they're told the next day they're idiots, that it really was great. When they like something, they're told they're idiots. It really was just pandering. And after a while, since it's diametrically opposed usually to their feelings, and since the composer prides himself, because of this romantic vision, on not reaching people, rather than reaching people, on being unintelligible rather than being intelligible, they don't understand it.
Well, I'm not terrifically interested in leaving so-called masterpieces, but I think more important is the work that I've done to facilitate creativity in others as well as myself. And so what I think about as legacy is leaving behind ways of listening and ways of responding, which leads to making music.
I think that my work is, at the end of the day, it's terribly ephemeral work. It's about creating an experience of the moment, of discovery or whatever, rather than sort of constructing a masterpiece, you know, that you would remember when you leave the concert hall. And again, it must be some weird sort of self-destructive urge that I have, but in a sense, my goal is to create a work that you won't remember afterwards, that will only be an experience while one is immersed in it, but that while you're immersed in it will be all-encompassing. You know, it'll be like that sort of pseudo-virtual reality that comes in a dream, which is that when you have a dream, it's all-encompassing. You only once or twice get a crack in the dream where you're saying, oh, it's only a dream. And until then, for all its lack of reality, it is a completely enveloping experience, even though it might be wholly impractical. Yeah. And when the dream is over, it vanishes, right? Well, to use a dream as an analogy for a piece of music is hopelessly romantic and tacky and cliched. But there is that aspect that you can't deny the power of a dream simply because when you wake up it vanishes.